Thanks, Andrew. Certainly, we've seen a significant increase in cases over the last couple of weeks, and it was going from those single-figure daily numbers to double figures, and then to the 40 and 70 that we've seen in the last few days. That's a significant doubling rate, and it was that trend and the fact that we had to turn it around that prompted me to take these actions. This is a heartbreaking turn in the epidemic, but these are the right public health actions, and we know that they can work. We can absolutely turn this around. We can stabilise numbers over the next few days, and we can absolutely drive numbers down, not just in those hotspot areas, but as the Premier says, if everyone's doing the right thing across Victoria, then we'll see the numbers stabilise and decrease in all those locations. But it's not just the public health directions that will have an effect here. It's what everyone does across the board, and that's why we have to really emphasise that we're in it together. But I do know that we can make a difference if we are doing the right thing.
Why are you so confident that human behaviour will change?
Look, I think people have clearly been very concerned at what they've seen in the last few days. They are understandably anxious. I want to reassure them that we know what works in this space and that we can absolutely turn it around. But I think people will be newly motivated if they have maybe gone back to some old habits. They'll be newly motivated to do the right things, the things that worked in March and April and took us down to days where we had 0 cases. We can see that again if people do it, not just in these priority postcodes, but across the board.
How many of these cases can you trace back to that security breach at the hotel?
Well, as the Premier said, it's a very significant proportion, and it might be even greater. Not all.
Dozens? Is it hundreds? We don't know what significant is.
Yeah, look, of those recent cases that have been analysed through late May and into mid-June, there were dozens that have been analysed. They don't represent all of the cases that we've had over that period, but they are the ones that are linking back to hotel quarantine.
Which hotel? Is it one hotel in particular?
No, you're well aware that both hotels have already had linked cases to them in terms of the staff, but I don't have the full picture because we don't have some of the most recent results, and they're a sample of all of those cases that have occurred through May, June.
Yesterday we spoke about young people flouting the rules. We've talked a lot about fatigue of lockdown. That's obviously been a consideration. How concerned are you about putting suburbs back into lockdown, that people might just give up?
Yeah, of course I'm concerned. I just have to emphasise that there is no plan B here. We have to do the things that will change the transmission, because today it'll be the priority suburbs, but if they're not turned around, it will be Metro Melbourne, and we owe it to everyone in Victoria not to have this spill across all suburbs, not to spill into rural and regional Victoria that has no community transmission, that is almost universally free of active cases. So we have to do the right thing to get back to a position where we've got very minimal and potentially ended transmission in these areas and across the board.
Have you considered tougher punishments for people flouting the rules? Have you also considered making it mandatory?
I don't think that's settled as of today. We'll work that through tonight, and that'll obviously be a settled direction for midnight tomorrow night.
Does that go for relatives as well? You want to visit your sister or your
No, I think the issue about visiting homes is exactly that for relatives, you really shouldn't in these priority postcodes. The 0 visitors is exactly that.
And just from the results from the suburban testing blitz, how does it compare to what you're expecting? Is it more cases than you're expecting?
I'm somewhat reassured by the stabilisation of today's numbers against yesterday's. I think the fact that we have done a blitz has genuinely identified almost all cases that are out there. There are still those that are going through an incubation period who'll develop symptoms, who'll be testing positive in coming days. So I absolutely expect more numbers. But I think the testing blitz has identified all of those infectious positive cases out there at the moment, and that's helped us to control numbers. So I'm happy that we haven't got an ongoing increase, but it's absolutely a knife edge. You don't want to have numbers creeping up above 100, which is the highest we got to in the first phase of this.
How many close contacts would you want in
I don't have today's number. As you know, it was over 2,500 yesterday. We've got increased capacity, the 350 additional staff are onboarding as of today. Western Australia, South Australia, ACT, New South Wales all have in situ in their home jurisdictions contact tracing staff who can just roll out as required. They can be provided with the information to do that contact tracing, and they can do it from where they are.
People doing door knocking, should they be wearing PPE?
No, not necessarily. If you can door knock and take a step back and keep that 1.5 metres distance, then you are safe. So that's not an absolute requirement, no.
Just to clarify, will we have an answer for couples and partners by tomorrow before midnight?
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. And just another question quickly, is there a concern, given we are in the midst of the school holidays, people who haven't gone on holiday by midnight tomorrow will be banned? Are you worried that people might suddenly book somewhere and rush off during the day tomorrow?
I would hope not. Again, we are emphasising that the critical aspect here is people understanding the urgency and the seriousness of this message and of doing the right thing. So I do implore people to do that, and I do think the great majority of people understand that and will do the right thing. I've got friends, I myself am holding back holidays for that very reason. I think the vast majority of people will do the same.
And just on the genomic question, genomic sequencing question I asked the Premier, have we seen any link in the last month or so's cases between those cases and Cedar Meats?
No, the Cedar Meats virus seemed to have been snuffed out in early June. There is no evidence of any original virus from February, March around currently.
Some of this, just last one, some of those 6 local government areas you mentioned before as the hotspots are outside these postcodes. Do those 6 LGAs still apply? So kind of the KC areas like that?
They're still worthy of people understanding that there's activity there. They are not under the public health directions. It is only those postcodes listed. But those were LGAs that were listed because they did, as a whole local government area, have a not insignificant number of cases. So, the message is still for all Victorians and for people in those LGAs. You have some cases around, maybe more widespread, and not so concentrated in a particular postcode, so it hasn't met that threshold, but there's still transmission there.
Can I just finish by saying on the question around some of those